Hey, what's up? It's Symphony here. Subscribe to my brother Mr. Creepy as Hell channel, and when you're watching his videos, make sure you stay in one piece.
Remember, Jack, this is all you're doing. It was your addiction that put you in this situation, that put your family in this situation. Now you gotta pay the price, the man said to me as I was bleeding and bruised all over, bones aching. Several bones were broken. I sit there in this farmhouse, realizing how much of a shitty person I am, how I am a deadbeat father and no good husband. And I put my family through all this because of my fucking addiction. This happened because I have a gambling addiction, and it was a very huge problem that I had. My gambling addiction caused us to go bankrupt, and my wife was threatening to leave me and take the kids as well. I needed to fix everything, and that's when I ran into him, Carlos. He had a business that he owned called Carlos's Loans, where he gives up to about $10 million in loans. I ran into his business when I was driving, trying to clear my head after the ultimatum my wife gave me at the time. I saw his business and I thought to myself, in order to clear up my gambling debt, which was, I'm ashamed to admit, was about $5.7 million, I parked my car in the parking lot of the business and I walked in. I was met with a receptionist and I asked to speak to the owner of this facility. She called out for Carlos and then he stepped out. He was a man who had on a nice clean cut suit. He had on a fedora hat. He had on some alligator shoes that looked really shiny just from looking at it. The shine was so bright it nearly blinded my eyes. Well, what do we have here? A new customer. Welcome to Carlos's Loan. My name is Carlos. How may I help you, boss? He said to me while walking up to me with a huge smile, holding his hands out, gesturing for a handshake. I shaked his hands back and I answered him. How you doing, Carlos? My name is Jack and I was wondering if I can get a $8 million loan from you. I'm in a fucked up situation and right now I really need to make things right with my wife and kids. I'm really a screw up and I know you don't want the personal stuff, but I really need to pay off a debt so my family can be, living in a comfortable spot financially and so my wife won't leave me. I need your help, sir. I really need this $8 million loan. I got myself in a very large gambling debt and I don't know what I'm gonna do. My wife is threatening to leave me. She's threatening to take the kids away from me. I screwed up. I need help. It looks like you're promising. Can you please promise me something, sir? Can you please promise me you can give me $8 million in loan and I'll definitely pay it back. I don't care how long it takes. I just need to fix up my mess, sir. I can't do that for you, Jack. I'm sorry. Look, you're a first-time customer and we usually do not give out that much for first-time customers. And second of all, I gotta take a look at your credit. And even if I do, you have to work your way up to get that kind of a loan. I mean, the most I can do is start you off is at $5,000. And that's usually not how much I start off my first-time customers. I'm usually go lower than that. So I am taking a gamble by even starting you off at $5,000. So I'm sorry, Jack, but $5,000 is all I can start you off. And if you pay that back, you just gotta work your way up. And if you work your way up, then yeah, I would feel more comfortable giving you $8 million. Especially after you told me you got a gambling debt. That's kind of risky for me and for my business, Carlos explained to me. But I kept on pleading with him. I even told him about a promotion at my job that I was gonna get, that was gonna pay me top dollars, and that I would be making more than enough that would help me pay back the loan of $8 million faster. I pleaded with him. I told him, come on, sir, please. I have a job, though I'm going to be paid $2 million a month. I know I can owe you it back, sir. Is there anything you can do? Carlos puffed it a bit, looking up at the ceiling. He turned his chair around about a couple of times, and then he turned back to my direction and looked down at me. And then he told me, okay, listen, Jack, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have you sit in the front office, and I'm gonna talk to my associates and see what we can work out. Give us about 15 minutes, all right? 15 minutes had passed, and Carlos came out. He told me to step in his office, and I did. All right, Jack, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and lend you the $8 million, but you're gonna sign a 200-page agreement knowing that you owe me $8 million back, plus another $2 million back in interest. So altogether, your total is gonna be $10 million. Now, that's the only way you're gonna get that money. And you're gonna sign another agreement, meaning that if you don't give the money back, you're gonna suffer consequences. That's the deal here. Sure, I'll do whatever it takes. Go ahead and give me the paper and I'll sign anything you need me to. Alright, sounds good to me. Let's go ahead and get you started. After I signed the necessary paperwork, I was able to get the $8 million a couple of days later. Afterwards, I was able to pay off the debt, and I had a little bit extra left over to pay for some things and fix up the house, and I was able to have a little extra money to take care of the wife and kids. Everything was perfect. My wife didn't leave me. I was able to be a father, but I blew it once again when that urge to gamble returned. And when I gambled, this time I earned an even higher debt I had to pay. It was close to $20 million. I was really messed up. My wife left me because she got frustrated that I fucked up again. And not only that, the company, Carlos's loan, I kept on getting threatening phone calls and emails about returning their $8 million plus the interest that I promised to pay up as well. I didn't have the money. I was frantic and wondering how I was going to pay them back the money. And to make matters even worse, I lost my job as well. I was nearly on the verge of being homeless. My wife was gone, my kids were gone. I had them coming down my neck, wanting their money back plus interest. I was really in a fucked up situation, and I really was trying to think of any way, if possible, how I was going to get money. I decided to think about it over a bottle of beer. As I was heading to a bar, there was a large white van that pulled up beside me, and before I knew it, 3 heavy-set men came at me. When they put the bag over me, I remember smelling something really strong, and I blacked out. When I came to, I was in a farmhouse. I was surrounded by a bunch of men with guns and weapons, and then a familiar voice came out from behind those men, and he stepped forward, and he said to me, "Damn, Jack, you know, if it's one thing I hate, it's when a customer violates the agreement that we had. I was nice enough to you to loan you $8 million, even though it went against my policy, but you took advantage of me. It really pisses me off when people take advantage of my niceness. Jack, there's a price to pay, and clearly you didn't read all the agreements. Because of that, I wanted to show you something." Carlos pulled out his phone, and what he showed me was a father and a husband's worst nightmare. It was my 2 kids and my wife. They were tied up. My wife, though, she was in worser condition. It looked like she was beat up badly. She had blood all over her face. She looked like she was crying. My 2 kids, on the other hand, didn't have scratches on them, but I could tell that they were crying as well. "Carlos, what are you doing? Why are you dragging my wife and kids into this? Especially my kids, they're young and innocent. They have nothing to do with this. Please have mercy on them. Please, I'll figure out a way to pay you back, I promise." Carlos was unfazed by my plea. He looked at me, and then he told me something. "You know, I'm usually not the type of guy that will go after a man's family, but in your situation, I gotta use drastic measures. Now, I'm gonna ask you, do you have the $10 million you owe me?" "No, I don't have it yet. Just please give me time." Carlos frowned when I told him the answer, and then he called one of his goons over, and that goon started to beat me up. His fists were large, and each time he hit me, it felt like my bones were cracking and breaking. After the goon got done beating me up, he positioned me back into the chair. And then once again, Carlos asked me if I had the money, and I told him no. And once again, one of his goons beat me up. This went on for several hours until I couldn't feel anything. I was in pain. My lips were busted. My nose was bleeding. My bones were hurting and aching, and I could have sworn I had a broken bone somewhere on me. And then Carlos said something. You know what, Jack, I changed my mind. You don't have to owe me the money at all. Matter of fact, you're free to go. But since you can't owe me the money back, you violated an agreement that was also in page 150. I'm killing your family. That's the only way you're gonna pay your debt to me. I strapped bombs on your wife and kids. I'm gonna blow them up right now. No, Carlos, don't do that, please. I'll do anything. I'll sacrifice myself if I have to. Don't take my wife and kids, please. I pleaded to Carlos as I was trying to stop him for pressing the button that was gonna blow up my wife and kids. Carlos looked at me, and then he punched me in my gut extremely hard. I fell to the ground. Carlos looked down at me like I was a pile of shit, and then he said, remember, Jack, this is all you're doing. It was your addiction that put you in this situation, that put your family in this situation. Now you gotta pay the price. You are a lousy father and a husband. No real man puts his family through the shit that you're putting your family through. I know, I'm a horrible father and I'm a horrible husband. Look, Carlos, if you kill me, I have a life insurance policy that's worth $20 million. You can take out on me. You can kill me, just spare my wife and kids. Carlos looked at me, and then he was looking up in the air like he was thinking. And then he grabbed out his phone and made a phone call. You can come in. I got him where you want him. He's all yours. And then you can walk off in the sunset with me. Before I can figure out who he was talking to, the barn door opened up, and who I saw coming out was something I was not prepared to see. It was a woman, and not any woman. It was my wife. She was looking at me with this huge smirk on her face. She looked at me with this evil glaze, and she said, I appreciate everything you done, Carlos. I'll take it from here. I knew he had money put up somewhere, and now I'm gonna collect on that $20 million debt that you owe me and our daughters. You're a lousy father, Jack. I can't believe I got kids with you. At least Carlos is much more of a real man than you. He would never ever put a woman and a child in harm's way like you did. But here's one way how you can redeem yourself, Jack. Be a real man, a real husband, a father, and just die. Before I had time to respond to her, my wife pulled out a gun, and she shot me multiple times. As I was fading into consciousness, I can see my wife kissing Carlos. She was smiling, bragging about how she was gonna be rich and how she was gonna pay off all the debt that I owed and clean up my mess. I decided to take my death as a man. I figured that she's much better off without me, and my daughters are much better off without their deadbeat father who just keeps gambling his life away. So I accepted my death.